Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Tommy, shut up. I'm sick of it. I'm only joking. No, it's good to have you all. Thank you for saying something from Discord, actually. I really do appreciate that, Tommy. One of the stressful parts of the show is actually getting Discord to interact. So thank you very much. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth? And a few people who are in Discord, you're now off mute if you did want to join in.
Well, my brother-in-law thinks that pictures from the ISS showing a curved globe is enough proof.
Where's the ISS exactly, Neil?
Oh, it's in a violation. It's in a natural law violation. It's in space, which is fake because you can't have gas pressure out of a container. So space, the way they tell us, is fake.
That's the end of that claim.
Hey, Nathan, I got an idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but since it's Monday and the panel is always on some of these answers one way or another, could it be Discord Monday and just have Discord, the members in Discord answer the housekeeping questions on Monday?
Tommy, this is going to be down to you. So, 10th's putting a lot of faith in you here.
Go, Tommy, go.
Go, Tommy. Right, we're going to ask the rest of the housekeeping questions. All you got to do is give whatever you think is the most concise answer.
Concise answer, for fuck's sake. Come on then, I'll be on then.
Okay.
Give me your worst.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container, as we just covered it?
There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence, no experiment that can be demonstrated to demonstrate gas molecules being affected by the gravitational pull of this so-called force that they call gravity.
Wow, that was very fading at the end, but not bad. Gravity, you say? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
You can help a brother out if you're in the Discord server. You know, you don't have to lean on Tommy. I was half joking.
There's no evidence for gravity. There's no evidence for mass attracting mass. No, we don't see that in the natural world. There's no natural evidence. There's nothing you can show me two masses being attracted towards each other due to the size. You can't demonstrate that. There's no experiment to demonstrate that.
Ah, I see. So you're a bending space-time man.
Bending space-time? Me? Don't know. Maybe, I don't know.
Well, let's find out. If somebody replied, if I was the fundy, and I said, well, okay, you saying mass doesn't attract mass, I agree. But that's not gravity anyway. You know, gravity is the effect of bending space-time.
Like, due to the large body of mass. Large body of mass distributing large distribution of large mass in a small area.
Close, not bad.
Causes gravitational effects, apparently.
Cat Tommy, love it. Uneven distribution of mass would be the cause of that effect, according to them in their mathematics, yeah.
Yeah.
What would be a reply to that then? So I've just proven gravity then, haven't I?
They're still saying that mass is the cause, aren't they? They're saying that mass basically causes gravitational effects. That's what they're saying. And they're saying that affects gases, which doesn't. There's no demonstration of that.
Not exactly.
Therefore.
So The problem with bending space-time argument, Tommy, is that it's taking place in pseudo-Riemannian 4 space. That's a dimension that doesn't exist beyond the maths.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the end of the
As
argument.
well, yeah.
Conceptual medium.
It's all theoretical.
Well,
Even in some of the maths that I was looking into Einstein, a lot of the maths were dependent upon large bodies of flat. So the mathematics all work out. So he does like a flat, even inside the. Oh, it was really complicated. I can't remember how it was, but he was saying that even in the black hole or whatever, the gravitational effect, every increment was flat in the mathematics. They had to add like a mad curvature to it. So that even adding curvature to their maths, it's crazy. It's
Sure.
just like, where did they get these theoretical curves from?
But it's not theoretical. You can use that word in mathematics, but it obviously has many different meanings, both colloquial, scientific, and mathematical. We're saying it's conceptual. The arena the arena this is taking place in, Tommy. So somebody says, well, bending space-time, that's gravity. And the effects of the effect we see as a force, or whatever they give you as some nonsense on the anti-flat earth side. Just appreciate that what they're describing only exists in maths. It's a conceptual medium, fourth dimension.
In other words, fake.
Well, fake, but only exists in the maths. A bit like the geometric horizon.
Exactly. They're just adding this curve to it for no reason.
Would it be,
Even then, when
say-
the maths on about straight lines as well, it was crazy how he explained it. Straight lines that are curved. It's like these people are just like they're seeing what they're experiencing is a flat motionless plane, and they're just adding all this imaginary stuff to it.
Yeah. Or taking it to a realm that doesn't exist at all. Pseudo 4 space. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, as a side-by-side comparison, wouldn't that be the same as the kids not aging in Narnia? Conceptual, it's not really happening.
Yeah, exactly. You can.
I mean, if now mass
qualify-
was attracting mass, then the moon and the Earth would be attracting each other. That'd be an example of mass attracting mass in the natural world. We don't see that.
Or you can take it to the infinitesimally small and just say gas particles in their vernacular have mass, and they're not being attracted to the centre of the mass of Earth. And when they then say, well, buoyancy, they're being displaced up by the gas around them being pulled down, go boom, boom, then they're just asserting the same thing, but about the gas around it going down, which it doesn't. So mass isn't attracting mass. Gas has mass. It's not going down, go boom, boom. Hey, Brian.
Hey, Nathan. Hey, everyone.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Never.
Anyone from Discord at all?
No, that's all. Nope, it's all pseudoscience.
Right.
They don't
None that I'm
experiment.
aware of.
Not that I'm aware of. Very, what's the one? Courtroom answer. Not that I'm aware
No
of
one wants to
either.
set you off, Nathan. No one wants to set you off.
No,
Everyone's
not that I'm
treading
aware
carefully.
of. Leaves is a Weasley answer. Not that I'm aware of. Not that I can recall.
No, I'm just messing with you. Nah, they're all pseudosciences at the end of the day.
Yeah, they'd be shoving the experimentation data down our throats daily, based on the amount of times we ask this question, which is daily, if they had anything. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
You'll need R for that.
Any evidence of
And
the
Black
R
Swan
value?
destroyed that.
Yeah, Black Swan does indeed destroy that. Any evidence of the R value?
Nope.
Right, any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Well, we see the sky move, the stars move.
Axial rotation.
Do we see them move?
No.
What was that, Neil?
Do we see them literally move?
Yeah. Apparently move. When you say literally.
Yeah, apparently.
Yes, Neil, the moon definitely appears to move across the sky. Do you dispute this?
No.
You asked, like, does the moon actually move? Well, what did you say? Literally move? Well, yeah, literally. I can literally describe it as having movement. It's just apparent from my position. I don't know what causes the movement or even what it is. So, beyond that assertion that I can see it moving, it is apparent. What else have I got? That's about it. Sad, really. You used to think we knew so much about the moon, eh?
It's made of cheese.
Could be, for all we know. Anything's possible, as Mark Sargent says. And it's true. You know, unless you can disprove Arwen's crazy notions of it being holographic, and then he describes it as being holographic and then makes comparisons to other things that are holographic, because I can't disprove his notion of something that we are currently describing as intangible. How can I say that's not the case? I mean, there are certain things that I'd probably rule out about the moon. I don't think it's made of cheese, a man-made produce item. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, that's taking it to the farcical extreme. But with reasonable descriptions of it, you can only sort of rule out certain aspects of it. And normally those aspects that we are ruling out are ruled out only because they're based on presupposition after the fact of the observation. So I see it apparently moving. Well, I'll assume it's falling around a sphere Earth then. Well, no. You can't just say because I see the moon apparently moving, it's apparently falling around a sphere Earth.
Or just assume the shape of the celestial body assumes the shape of the ground that you walk on, is what many of them do too as well. They'll assume that because of the shape of the moon is circular, or what they call a sphere, therefore the Earth is also circular or a sphere.
Yeah, it's akin to being in the forest and going, everything I see around me is a tree, therefore I'm a tree.
Yeah,
it makes
and
no
it
sense.
also depends on which. It also depends on what paradigm you're looking at it through to describe the moon and its motion around the Earth as well.
It's funny, isn't it, that you look at something like Saturn or whatever, that they appear, they're definitely circular in appearance, like what they call planets, what used to be wandering stars, but you have no evidence that they're spherical. You just have evidence that they might appear to be, some of them. You know, kind of way.
Yeah. I don't know about that, because of libration. That, to me, is the best argument they've got to claim it's for a sphere, the moon, that is. Do you know what libration is?
Well, I'm talking about Saturn and stuff, not the moon. I'm talking about like
You did
the
say
planets.
that. But just because it is a celestial body and there is a reasonable argument for the moon being spherical, as we see it being lit or lighting itself, whatever you want to argue, it's lit. Yeah? It's more than 50% of a circle. You know, you can see what appears to be around back edges of the moon in terms of what's being lit as it goes through its phases, as it goes through the cycle. I think it's something like 56 or 58, something like that percent. And they're describing that as a la you can see round the side of a sphere, and then when you get to the other side of it being lit, you can see more of the other side of it. That's what libration's describing. But yeah, you're right, you didn't say the moon.
So what is the best way to approach this? Because you'll have you'll have sort of people from the flat Earth community who will say it's a flat luminous disk, and others will say it's a spheroid. What's the best way to approach that?
Describe what you can actually describe. That's it. So in the same way I've just described libration, and I can qualify a quantity, I can then say, based on that, it's hard to describe it as a flat disk unless it's a stretched out oval that's just coincidentally being lit in such a manner that it presents itself as being sphere shaped. Well, that's as much as I know, because that's what I can see. I can, crude as it may seem, I can describe libration, but that's all I'm doing. But beyond that, you can just extrapolate out data, and that leads you to end up with stupid notions like it falling around in presuppositional orbital paths and so on and so forth. I can describe libration, that's all I can do. But what is it? So, doesn't
It's a
mean much.
timepiece.
That's what it does. Seems to keep time. I mean, our time is a derivative of these movements in the first instance. So, it seems obvious, does it not?
Yeah,
I
it depends on
simply
what calendar you follow. If you follow lunar or solar calendar, I guess the moon would have a big part in telling what day or what month you're in.
Month, right?
Didn't think of that. Yeah, that's actually a good thought. I didn't even think of that.
Well, we did have
It's
13 of them. Then they changed it to the Gregorian calendar and inserted a couple of kings along the way. And then you end up with what we've got now, just a complete shit show of nonsense in terms of what actually occurs in the sky. There's nothing to correlate. It doesn't correlate. But there we go. That's enough of my moans. Something I'm doing with my kids at the moment is trying to, for my own benefit as much as theirs, just get a good idea of what they're actually doing. 6 years ago, probably now, maybe even longer, when I first found this subject, I tracked the sun with a whole bunch of people around the plane, all looking at the sun at solar noon and sunrise and sunset. But I want to do something similar with my eldest daughter. Now she's asking questions. Do we
Good morning, guys.
So what?
Hey, Chocolate.
No, I was gonna ask. So what about what about when some of the people, they say that the moon is transparent, that there's some transparency in there. What's the best way to approach that?
I mean, fine. If somebody shows me some aspect of transparency to it, then great. But once you've shown that, what does it prove? What does it demonstrate? What does it tell you? And even if you had a video to hand right now where you showed something shining through the moon, i.e. a star, which is on a certain flag anyway, that's something that seems to be relatively well documented, that at certain stages you've got things shining through the moon. Now, I've not personally seen that, and as far as I can see, that isn't the case, regardless of what phase the moon's in. If it's got a dark bit that you can see with moonshine or not, I'm yet to see it being transparent. But even if somebody proved me wrong and said, no, here you go, look, you can see something through it, I'd go, okay. So I can now categorically say, like vibration, that I can see something through it. Okay, that's useful. Wonderful, thank you. That's so nice of you. Now, yeah, if you've got a fundy sphere belief about it being a rock in the sky, that could be a problem. For me, it doesn't really give me much. It doesn't really help much, does it? It doesn't tell me what it is. It doesn't tell me anything more than, a certain behaviour that was uncharacteristic of a rock in the sky that I no longer have a presupposition about. So that might seem strange to somebody who's got a heliocentric belief. To me, I'm like, okay, what can I do with that data though? What does that tell me about it?
Nathan, it seems to me that all these other discussions, and this one being the moon, is, okay, for example, flat earth debates. We're talking about the nature of Earth. And so when they can't show us R, and they can't show us spinning, so I can go down the list of the housekeeping questions that involve that, they have to say, well, look at the moon. They say, fine, look at it. You can, in my mind, it could be anything they want it to be. It's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Earth. And so why is it you can't show me R? Why is it you can't show me Earth rotating? Why is it you can't show me gravity? And now you want to talk about the moon?
Yeah, even as Nathan was saying, if you were shown that you can see through the moon, all it does is adds to your description of it. It doesn't tell you what it is.
Yeah, I remember I was having this discussion with one of my coworkers about this, and I was, giving them some of the housekeeping questions, but in a very, very discreet, simple manner. But he caught on to it. He said, "Okay, so I mean, if you believe that the Earth is flat, then what about?" Then he started pointing up. He's like, "Okay, what about explain the sun, explain the moon?" And I just told him, I said, I gave him an analogy. I don't know if it was a good analogy to give him. I said, what you're saying is that because you're on the pool table and because the balls are a sphere, so therefore the table itself is a sphere. Whatever the shape is above us doesn't answer the question of what's beneath our feet. At the end of the day, if you can't prove these things, then there's no way to go around looking up in the sky and saying, "Oh, that's what must be the shape of the Earth be." No.
Well, maybe he could book you a flight and get a 2-for-1 deal and take the next flight to the moon and the sun, because you're not there, you're here. How do I explain what the sun and the moon is when I'm living on Earth? I can explain the Earth. In fact, if you're going to be telling me that the Earth is just like that moon, does that moon have a radius? Where's the Earth's radius?
It also depends on
That's
how...
diversionary tactic.
Go on, Chocolate.
Just a diversionary tactic, man. I mean, you asked about the radius of the Earth, and it's like, but what about the moon? But what about the sun? But what about? Right? If they could just provide you what you asked for, you wouldn't need a but what about? They would just
Because what
provide
happens
it.
is everything unravels in their head, and I have to think like, how does this fit all the other things that made sense before?
It's
So
perfectly
when everything
natural.
falls apart, they think, oh no, this can't be true because all
Yeah.
these other things won't be true. It's a way
You,
to
lo-
go back
you, lo-
into
you lose the
cognitive,
answers
Exactly.
that you were retaining, and then suddenly everything around you falls apart, and then you want answers. You want replacements for those answers. But for you being questioned, it all depends on how humble you are. So if you've been deeply humbled by having a lot of your preconceived notions about what things are and how they behave and what they do in relation to sphere Earth or heliocentrism, once you relinquish those, you have to accept that in many instances you don't have an answer. And it's really easy to be that guy that's gone to the next guru in line and looked at their answers and gone, good enough, and just rattle them off. And in some cases, they're only there to be debunked, to leave the person who's asking you the question going, well, if he can't explain it on flat Earth, it's still a sphere. But if you can resist that temptation and just go, I don't know. I have no idea what the sun is. I don't know what the moon is. I'm sorry. And if they go, well, you're telling me it's not a sphere, you must have all the answers. No. Knowing what it isn't doesn't mean I know what it is. And I'm really sorry. I'm intrigued as much as you are. And when we say welcome to flat Earth, that is akin to, or at least in my mind, that's what I'm saying to them. Once they start rattling off all the questions, well, how does this work? Well, how does that work? Well, it's because they don't have answers for it, and they're challenging me to prove them, because at that point, they think that if I fail, they win. Now, once they accept or appreciate that they're not on a sphere, and we've gone welcome to flat Earth, anything they've got to ask, it's like, number one, you were my opponent 2 minutes ago. Now you appreciate you're on a flat plane, we've welcomed you to it. You've got questions. Let me know the answers. Come back to me and say, I'm really grateful that you set me on this journey of discovery by pointing out where I'd been lied to with the sphere Earth that I don't stand upon. Now, I've found out this, that and the other. But that is not what they do. They're going to come back and say thank you with all the information they found out subsequent to their being, having the revelation revealed to them. What they do is demand the answers of you. Now, you don't have to give them. Why should it be the case that you are automatically expected to know everything about everything just because you figured out you've been lied to? Doesn't mean you know all the answers. So don't think that you're obliged to give them. And I say that here, when somebody puts a positive claim of Earth turn or geometric horizons, I don't have to, and never, very rarely do, offer any alternative to them. And when they demand it of me, I just laugh. I don't have to give you anything. Oh, right, you found out and figured out that we're on a flat plane and you've been lied to about the sphere? Yeah, so have I. Yeah, and I've had to go around looking for answers when I've scratched my head and gone, I really don't know the answer to this, and I don't really want to just accept this guru's answer. So I'm going to have to figure it out for myself. Or qualify any information that people are willing to give me if I'm nice and ask politely. They might share that information for me to assess after thanking them for giving it me in the first place. But then I'll assess it on my own time and decide whether or not I actually agree with it. And then if they come back to me and demand that I'm grateful for their nonsense, then I might tell them how I feel it's not necessarily correct. But ultimately speaking, That's not how it goes down. How it goes down is, so, okay, I can't use a sextant on a curved surface. Well, how do the seasons work? That's normally what we get. What Chocolate's describing as a
Exactly.
distraction technique. Get away from the dirty detail that they've not got a sphere beneath their feet and start asking questions that they think we might have trouble answering. Quick shout out, and then I'll let everyone take up the reins with that. Top 3, Bezos Shatner bloopers. 1, the parachute miraculously becomes 2. Oh, 3 parachutes miraculously become 2. Number 2, spacecraft casts no shadow as it descends, but big shadows after it lands. Number 3, no dirt on craft after landing in giant dust cloud. This is somebody going through the... yeah, they've pushed it too far, Retro Bill. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat.
I did notice the giant dust cloud there. There was no... are we doing a reenactment of the moon? All the dust, but no dust at the same time? You gotta love it.
I think they like, back to what you were talking about, I think they like to spend most of their time in the mathematical conceptual world, because if they spend it here, they would fail on most of the housekeeping questions that, well, all of them that deal with Earth. So they like to spend their time in the conceptual 4-dimensional world. But then when you say, well, why can't we apply your belief in that to the Earth? Where's the R? I mean, they're back to square one. You bring them back to, there is no R for Earth. So how can you be spending time in the mathematical world that has R's?
Right on. And it's not really, as I say, it's not really our problem. Once you say, how can you spend this time in that world? Obviously, at that stage, you're debating with them about the nature of their reality and the nature of your reality. The discussion we've just had is about the point where they start falling down the fence as they're tumbling down from their happy, fundy sphere belief, blissful ignorance in the Matrix, not knowing what the Matrix even is. Suddenly, they see a bit of the Matrix, and then they're falling down the hill at a rapid pace, yelling, "Tell me what the sun is, tell me what the sky is." Well, then what do you have stopping us floating off into the non-existent sky vacuum, as they tumble down the hill? And they're not happy. You know, they're not saying it, "Oh, wow, what a wondrous world I must live in now. Wow, so many possibilities." It's like, well, how does this work? That's what we actually get. Well, sod you, I'm not going to tell you if I did know. You're a prick. So why would I tell you? You just spent 10 minutes chanting through every word I've tried to correct you on.
I think the average person, like, I don't know if it was a friend or relative of the lad in Discord, who asked him, well, what about the sun? What about the moon? Well, he was trying to describe to him how the earth was flat. I think what people, the average person especially, don't, and everybody I would say, but in defense of the average person, what they don't realize is they are looking for you to replace their unverified answers with other unverified answers. But they don't realize that the answers they have are unverified. And that's the point. That's what we're pointing out to them. What you're told about and the answers you have are unverified. You're told they're verified. Or rather than told, you're given the impression they're verified. So they're expecting us to come up with solid answers to what the sun and moon are, when there isn't any solid answers from their own side, but they don't realize it.
Right. They take what they actually have, which is logical fallacy in most instances, and take that to be good logic, good solid grounding for their claim and belief that they're on a sphere. So based on my logical fallacy, demand that you give an equivalent to some logical fallacy they're holding.
They want you to replace the cool story that you just destroyed with another cool story. That's all it is.
Hey, John.
Yeah, that nails it.
Hey, John.
Hey, are y'all talking about gurus?
A little bit. Did you want to add something, True Seeker? I saw you peppering your mic there.
No, I was in agreement. This is something that I see every time when I have a discussion with somebody about flat Earth. It's whenever you bring up these subtle points that disproves their ball Earth belief. then they'll come at you and then ask, okay, so if these things don't work on Earth, then how do you explain how everything works on Earth based on your paradigm? So how does seasons work on flat Earth? And when you don't have the clear cut answers for them, and I know we've discussed this several times. If you don't have the answers for them, then they'll be like, see, at least we have a model to go by. At least we have, explanations for it. You don't even have an explanation for it. So why should we listen to what you have to say?
See, but at that point, they've already forgotten that they couldn't answer the first question that you asked them, right? They've got 35 questions for you after you've asked them one that they can't respond to, right? And now all of a sudden, what you're saying doesn't really matter because you don't have the answers, the 35 questions they just asked when all you do is ask them for one, right? Maybe, for example, when's the radius been measured? Oh, I don't know that, but how do seasons work? Oh, so we're just going to skip right past the radius that you require if this is a ball? Because if you don't have that, then where are we talking about these seasons? On a ball? Obviously not.
Exactly.
Chocolate, this has happened to me before in my debates with family and friends. I said, wait a minute. Let me reenact it. So wait a minute. I just proved to you the whole thing about a globe Earth is a lie. And instead of you just saying, oh my gosh, these does, well, how's the moon work? How's it do? Did that sink in, or was that just something you nodded your head without really thinking about it? I just proved to you, and you agreed, that the Earth is flat. That means everything they've told you about the shape and nature of this Earth is a lie. And the next question you got is, how do seasons work?
Yeah, happened on the show with that dude that wanted Bitcoin. Okay, I concede. Earth is flat and we're in a contained system. But why do we have gas pressure gradients? What?
Because it's contained, like you just said it was. Just like, what is wrong with people, man?
He wanted a new guru.
I had to watch that several times too. Kudos to you, Nathan. I had to watch that debate several times. Explain to me how tides work
on a flat Earth.
Say again, Neil. Thanks, Truth Seeker.
Explain to me how tides work on a flat Earth.
I think it was 10th a minute ago, he's talking about R. Well, you haven't got R. That's the end of the argument, right? But then they want an explanation for something within the paradigm that's assuming R, and they brush past it. Well, it's the equivalent of, let's just take metaphorically the R value to be the wardrobe in the Narnia story. So the question comes up, you said seasons, let's just do that in Narnia. Well, how do the seasons work? They go really rapidly when they cross a certain line. And depending on the magic situation, you can have a season change in like no time. How did the seasons work in Narnia? And you go, yeah, you haven't got a wardrobe to go through. Show me the wardrobe. And they go, no. Yeah, okay, we haven't got a wardrobe. But how do you explain the seasons in Narnia? And you go, without the wardrobe, the seasons are irrelevant. Okay, forget the seasons. What about the lamp? Right, you've got a lamp burning, right? Well, if it was super, super hot, well, surely you would run out quicker because the time dilation issue. Can you explain that on a flat Earth? And you go, look, you haven't got a wardrobe. Nobody's going to Narnia. Nobody's going to pseudo-4 space-time. That doesn't exist. Nobody's in presuppositional orbit. You haven't got an R value. So why am I discussing the seasons and qualifying how they work when I'm not a meteorologist and it's not my claim that the seasons are caused by an orbital motion that requires an R or a wardrobe that you haven't shown us? No wardrobe, no orbital mechanics. No R value, no gas lamp in Narnia. It's just that simple. But they want to whistle past the graveyard. Okay, I concede, we're contained. And on a flat plane, otherwise my sextant doesn't work. But how do you explain the gradient? No, I don't. I don't have to. I just have to point out where you were under the misapprehension of being on a sphere. And then when we get to the concession point that we're not, everything else is moot. Then you've got a world of discovery ahead of you like it was ahead of me. Off you pop, go and figure it out for yourself. Don't demand the person who's pointed out your error in thinking and how you've been deceived the answers, because they may not have any.
You know, it's interesting because it's reversed now.
Daddy.
Because
There'll be a short interlude.
sorry, it's kind of reversed now. My daughter messed me all up. She needs a peanut butter damn sandwich. I'll be back.
That's okay. The peanut butter sandwich for your daughter should definitely take priority anyway.
I heard of peanut butter and jam, not peanut butter and damn.
Okie dokie. Right, we've got chapter 4, The Sextant.
I'm trying to see what came across because sometimes they don't come in sequence. What's the first? It should be the Navy guys.
Chapter 4. I can start with the Navy guys
Hold
if
on.
you want.
Yeah,
Want me
start with
to
the
make
Navy
it
guys.
bite some time for you?
Yeah. Go ahead, buy some time, and then we'll start with the Navy guys. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what I'd say about seasons and tides is the explanation on the globe model is terrible for seasons and tides, and it wouldn't work. And it doesn't work even within their own paradigm. They need a force of gravity for their tidal movements, which was thrown out by their own model by Albert Einstein over 100 years ago. So they don't have an explanation for tides. Technically, they don't have one for over 100 years.
That's correct.
On their model. And the same with seasons. Like, they claim a parallel sun rays, which destroys their seasons, because it would mean that they would have 4 seasons, but it would only be 4 the 4 seasons would be happening simultaneously, both north and south of their equator line. You know, summer would be when you're closest to the sun. Winter would be when you're furthest from the sun in that paradigm. So technically, the seasons and tides can actually be explained a lot better on a flat, enclosed Earth. Now, can they be validated? That's the other question. But as far as an explanation goes, you can give explanation better, so that actually fits better with reality. But you can't validate it.
My favorite nonsense about the tides is when people want to say it's the gravity of the moon. Oh, okay. So this supposed gravity of the moon can manipulate the water on Earth from where it is supposedly 240,000 miles away. Okay, that's cool. But what about that atmosphere in between the water and the moon? What's going on there? Oh, it doesn't manipulate the atmosphere, but it can manipulate the water.
Yeah, we should have.
And they just look at me. They just look at me like, well, yeah, that makes sense. Oh, please tell me how that makes sense. And that's when the babbling starts, and it's like blah 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 blah. It's like
That's the position.
They can only think of one thing at a time. You know, when you're mixing two things, because they've spent so much time telling you how gravity is keeping the water on the ball, right? And then the air, the atmosphere sticking to the ball. But now there's another factor you just thrown in. Now you've got this ball in the sky that's manipulating what you're calling the oceans and the tides, right? With this supposed force.
Okay. If you want to go, Nathan, they're out of order. It doesn't matter.
I do, but
let's go.
I do, but I just want to give a quick word to True Seeker. So, who was saying earlier, how do I deal with this when it's my brother or whoever? Well, the position to take is how chocolate's essentially repositioned, which is to say, your position is skeptical. In other words, if the subject comes up, you don't have to make any positive claims. You just go, nah, I don't believe that. Now, if it's something that everyone's commonly expected to understand, and you just say, oh, I don't believe that, and they go, well, how do you explain it? You go, I don't know. I just don't accept that. Or as Chocolate would be like, nah, I don't know. Well, explain it to me. In other words, Chocolate's putting the shoe on their foot and going, okay, fine. You expect me to believe this gravity explanation, just explain it to me. And then along the way, you can be the one pulling that apart because they're the one making the positive claim. Now, unless you've got some inherent, interest in that subject, then why would you be expected to know, is the answer. So you can just say, I don't know, but I don't believe the current explanation. I'm highly sceptical of that. And then the shoe's on their foot to convince you of their heliocentric explanation. Right, Chocolate?
Exactly. And they don't like that. Because to them, it's already been explained. They shouldn't have to take the time to explain it to me, even though what I've just told them completely debunks the explanation that they have stored up, which half the time they don't even know anyway. So I have to tell them the very explanation that their side tells them, and then tell them how that very explanation is also wrong. It's very time consuming, to be honest. Wish people would learn their ridiculous model.
And frustrating, because normally the anti-flat earth position, if it is in that regard, what they then do is they've got two options. You've opened up their possibilities for what they can attack. They can attack your understanding of the globe claim, or try and attack your debunking of the globe claim they've just had explained to them, even though they didn't understand it. Or they can start challenging you for your globe claim that you're explaining to them, or they can take the information that they've only just learned and then start using that in an attack against you, even though they only learnt it 25 seconds ago. They've got a whole world of possibilities once you start explaining their own model to them that they understand. For instance, if it's Coriolis effect and you start explaining how things should drift from your vantage point because we're supposed to be turning beneath them, they can start challenging you on that nonsense claim because it doesn't happen. And you're like, yeah, that's our point. We're saying it doesn't happen. But the globe says it should. And they're like, no, you just said it should. That's nonsense, and you're saying it should happen. So it opens up their possibilities if you have to explain their own stupid claim to them.
Yeah, because what they think Coriolis is, basically they turned Coriolis into what we call globiolis, which is just a mathematical effect. That's all it is. If you look at what they're claiming Coriolis, the Coriolis effect is, it's a purely mathematical thing, that there's no observed effect that they can show you. It's only purely mathematical. You know, if a plane flew in this direction along the globe, then this would happen mathematically. But that's the end. That's where the claim ends, isn't it?
Right. They'll need R for that.
Yeah,
right, 10th.
Sorry.
No, Philip,
No,
round
go ahead,
out.
finish up,
You feel
Jeff.
free. This was your point. Round out.
No, I was just going to use the example of me telling somebody, Candy, my coworker, telling her how Coriolis is supposed to work on this globe Earth, and how we're supposed to see this apparent deviation. So, in the same way that something can go in the air and the Earth is supposed to be turning underneath it. So I gave her an example of, a plane or a helicopter or something. I forgot what I said. And how it's supposed to be, when it lifts off, it's not attached to the Earth, and they're supposed to be rotating underneath. Now, that's a pretty simple claim, right? Obviously, that's not reality. So it makes no sense to somebody who's thinking about it that way. But when I explained that to her, she says, well, that makes no sense. And I said, well, that's the point. You and I both know reality doesn't work that way, but yet you accept that because you read it in a book. But when I sit here and explain that book to you, you tell me that sounds ridiculous. And that's the whole point, is that you have to sit and think about your own claim that you, half the time, again, you don't even know. And then we have to tell them how those claims are wrong. It's crazy.
If you're adept at debating, or you've been involved in the discussion long enough, you'll tell your opponent that's not what the claim is. In other words, you won't officially state the claim, you'll just tell the opponent that they've got your claim that you haven't made yet wrong. And then when you try and explain to them that no, you have got that claim, and then give an example of Neil deGrasse Tyson making the claim, they'll say, well, I don't agree with Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's what they'll tell you. No shit. That's how it'll go down. Right, I'm on your two men, the guy with holding a sextant and the guy looking at his notepad.
Okay, so, excuse me. So you can see here, this is a snapshot or screen share of the Navy guys using a sextant. Now, if you go to the next black and white, and it's the depiction that they're on the boat on the right, and the star or sun is directly somewhere over the Earth in the GP, and there you have your right angle, which means you have a flat baseline. Now, of course, this is shrinked up here, but this radius to the GP of the sun could be 4 or 5 100,000 miles and even more. And so I want you to go to the cover of the book next, if you can, and then this the one part of the book, if you can, go there. Let me know where you got it. Navigation
Yeah, got
by
it.
Harold Jacobi.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harold Jacobi. Let me just tell you who this guy is. He graduated at Columbia in 1885. He applied himself to astronomical research and was appointed assistant astronomer for the United States Eclipse Expedition to West Africa. He became professor of astronomy at Columbia University in 1894, and he chaired the department until shortly before his death, which was in 1932 at the age of 67. I ordered this book, by the way. You can still get copies. Go to the excerpt from the book if you can, Nathan. Chapter 6, the sextant. We have twice made reference to this instrument, once, page 5, as a contrivance for asserting and by observation how high the sun is in the sky. And again, page 59, in measurement of the danger angle. These two uses of the sextant are not inconsistent, for it is really intended for measurement of any angle, page 8, formed at the observer's eye. I should have underlined that. Where is it formed? At the observer's eye holding the tool, the sextant, by two lines drawn to two distant objects. In this case of danger angle, these two distant objects are landmarks ashore. In the case of the sun, they are the horizon line where the sea and sky seem to meet, and the sun itself. This height of the sun or of any star in the sky is called its altitude. And so the altitude is always an angle to be measured in degrees and minutes. The point directly overhead is the zenith. The angle between lines drawn to the horizon and zenith is 90 degrees, or a right angle. So I'm just putting this out for the anti-flat earthers and ballers who don't like to say 90 and who say has nothing to do with right angles. And this isn't 10th Man or Nathan Oakley or his panel. This is a guy who wrote a book, is an expert on it. Nathan, go to the picture of the globe with the right angle from that one celestial body sextant angles.
Okay.
Just one look at this picture, you want to laugh. Because it is a right angle. It is triangulation when you get two or more circles to get a fix. They've got something true here, and they got something false here. They've got it on the sphere, but they're describing how it works with a right angle. Make up your mind what you think is the truth there. Go to S1, S2, S3.
Done.
All right, so you see, here's three stars with the circle of equal altitude, with the GP under the star itself, and you see right angles. This is from another guy who wrote a thesis on it. This is how it works. It can only work on a flat plane. Now, if you go to the next slide, I believe it's the last one. Again, they got a picture here of a blue Earth that's spherical shaped, and they've got three circles of equal altitudes. But just like that picture of the boat with the right angle, but on the wrong surface, they've got that little box in each of these circles where the GP of the sun or star is, saying it's a 90-degree right angle. And that's how you get your triangulation where they all meet, the fix. The trouble is that this circle could be a huge diameter, and if our position could be anywhere on there, it isn't a particularly accurate fix. With one side, we can obtain a position line. But to get a fix, we need an intersection of two or more lines as per diagram above. This can come from two or more different celestial bodies at the same time, or the same body at different times. It's over, ballers. The sextant can only work on a flat plane. You need a 90 degree. you need an angle. And as he says, it's formed at the observer's eye by two lines drawn to the distant objects, not from the center of a presupposed Earth where you're not taking the sighting from. 2021, year of the sextant.
Boom. I'm going to expand on it a little bit. So if we take the S2 star and take it in isolation, so we're going to be triangulating S2. Now, we can assume that we're going to be doing S1 and S3 afterwards. But for the sake of this argument, we're just going to isolate S2 and say that this is this measurement. Here's your boat, and here's the GP of the star at its zenith. Well, to get this measurement, let's just assume that this star is 1,000 miles away. The GP along the ground is distance 1,000 miles. Yep, so between the boat and where, if you were in another boat, so we'll pretend for this example, this is a second boat. Now that second boat has got the star directly above it. Yep. So the only angle that you're going to take is this one, from your boat to the star. Now this line along the base is utilizing the horizon. So you've got a horizon mirror inside the sextant, and you line that up till both the target object, in this case the star, is lined up with your horizon mirror. So in the picture that you'll see through this lens, you'll see both of them sat on the same line, because you'll adjust this arm to get them to both sit in the same position. And then on the arm, it'll tell you what the angle is. So it'll tell you what this angle is. Now, bearing in mind that we're assuming that this distance along the baseline for a triangle, which must be flat for it to be a triangle, this line is 1,000 miles, but you can't see 1,000 miles from your sextant position. You might find that above the deck, your horizon's 5, 10 miles away. So what you're doing is establishing on this line, if this is your boat, that the horizon this guy sees in his sextant when he's looking through is approximately here on this line. So that's what he's looking at. He's lining up his sextant with a point in the distance which is called the horizon, the apparent position where the sky meets the water. That will be approximately here, by example. If we say, exaggerated at 10 miles, it's probably more like here. But nevertheless, he has then got, from that flat level baseline established with the horizon, a further straight line out to the GP of the star, because of what 10th Man keeps describing, the 90 degree that you'll be using for your triangulation. So, here's his horizon, and the line that comes and extends beyond that point right to the GP of the star is all flat. Now, when we then take that S2 measurement, which is what we've just done here with 1,000 mile distance and the horizon being here, you can then do the same thing 3 more times. So the guy just turns around and does the same thing, and just for the sake of this example, we'll say this line is also 1,000 miles. But he's just going to do the exact same thing, and we're going to say that the horizon sits at the end of where the angle's measured, or marked, I should say, here, omega 1. Right, so here, at this point, is where the guy on the boat, looking out with this flipped the other way around for the second star, he's going to see his horizon approximately there in this example. But beyond the horizon, to the GP of the star 1,000 miles away, is all flat. So in every direction for this triangulation, for every star that you're triangulating with, it's flat. That's a fact, not a begging the question fallacy as I've been accused of using when describing this. This is a matter of fact. Triangles, for triangulation, are going to have a 90 degree angle, otherwise you can't apply this trig. You can't do it unless it's got a 90 degree angle. So, all of this area is flat. Just to round out with the endpoint that 10th Man decided to describe, when you get to this circumstance, with the triangulation being 1,000 miles away, exactly as I just described, suddenly you don't get 90 degrees to the surface. And if you turned around and did it the other way, you're out in free space somewhere over here. It makes absolutely sod all sense and can't be capable of actually deriving this flat bottom if you're on a sphere. The ground must be flat in all directions for thousands of miles for triangulation to actually function. I'm done.
I sent you a some slides that Mitchell from Australia did for you to work on. See if you want to use his, because it just covers what you're saying.
Yeah, these are nice. So yes, exactly. So you're taking two different boats' positions. You can assume that this distance is, I don't know, if each of them are measuring it, let's say it's 500 miles, so 1,000 miles total, and the GP for each of them, if there was a third boat in the middle, you've got 500 miles for him to this GP and 500 miles for him to this GP. They're both looking at a position that can be measured with triangulation, and they're both assumed to have 90 degrees either side. In other words, this is 180 degrees. So it's flat between the two boats, and must be for triangulation to function. The entire area is even described as a circle of equal altitude. And in the case of this depiction, all of these are circles of equal altitude. And if we're assuming all of them are 1,000 miles, it's a vast area of flat territory. That's what we're presented with.
If all they needed was just an angle, right, and a straight line to the horizon, the sextant wouldn't exist. They just use a protractor. Because if their angle is going to come from the center of a globe, they would have no need for a horizon mirror. They'd have no need for a lens. They could just use a protractor. You know,
Right.
Why create something
Hold on,
that has an
just let me expand on
horizon?
that. You need a plumb line and a protractor. So you establish your plumb, but that is automatically assumed on a sphere to be pointing to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, regardless of what angle you view the sphere from space at. So you've got a plumb line that's assumed to be to the centre of Earth. You then drop your protractor on the ground and should be able to, derive where the angle comes out of the zenith. That's exactly what they do claim, isn't it?
Oh, well, there's some claims about that concerning Polaris. But anytime anyone's taking an angle to Polaris, they don't use a plumb bob and a protractor. They use a sextant. That's how you do it. That's what it's designed to do. Like, if all they need is the angle, then what's the point of having a lens? What's the point of having an horizon mirror? It makes no point. There's no sense. All you need is a protractor and a plumb bob. Why would you complicate it? It wouldn't that be much easier to use on board a ship? A protractor and a plumb bob would be a lot easier to, maybe be harder to get the plumb bob to stay steady, but you know, the point is that why would you create a sextant if you were going to take your angle to the center of a globe? You wouldn't have sextant wouldn't exist.
You can't. It doesn't make sense, because what you're describing, when they rotate a sphere through 1 degree and make the same claim, the actual measurement is taken from the surface with a triangle, not by twisting a protractor at the centre of a sphere that they assume. In other words, the actual angle measurement has nothing to do with the sphere. They just bait and switch you. Adam, right? This is Adam's point. He'll forever get credit for it too. When you take an angle measurement, it's from your feet. That's what you're doing, on the ground. Well, that isn't twisting a protractor at the centre of a sphere when they then say, no, you're moving through 1 degree on a sphere. No, I measured an angle at the ground to the horizon, and the angle I got was using a straight flat line as a baseline to that horizon. It had absolutely sod all to do with twisting through 1 degree on a sphere. And you couldn't make that assertion unless you actually did do that. You just beg the question after you've made a triangle to make the degree measurement. Well, you needed a flat plane to get that measurement. So you're not going to get beyond the flat plane you need to get the measurement to then move it down to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. That's never going to happen here. It might happen elsewhere. I'm sure it does all day.
But the whole point of the lens is that you can then determine your eye height above the surface of the water underneath the boat. That's the whole point. That's why you're using your eye. You're using a lens to see it. So you're using then your eye height above the surface of the water to correct your angle, to correct your vertex, and to correct your angle to make it precise. Why would you be doing all that stuff if you're just going to then pre-assume that it's all coming from the center of a globe? You wouldn't. Those things wouldn't happen. You wouldn't have a lens. You wouldn't have a sextant. It wouldn't be what a sextant is. And you wouldn't be doing any dip correction because they'd be pointless. Why would you be doing a dip correction when you're going to be just pre-assuming it's coming from the center of a globe anyway?
Like I
Yeah,
read,
it's the same. It's the same way you wouldn't assume the Earth is flat and stationary in order to operate a vehicle above it when it's supposed to be a spherical ball. It's literally like just reality. We don't do that because it's not a ball.
It makes
Like
their
I
life
read-
easier. Life's a lot easier if you just ignore the presupposition of being on a ball and accept that you're on a flat stationary plane and then go about your general day-to-day activities, including flying and sailing. It's much easier to just assume the Earth's flat. Mathematically, yeah, we can derive the angle that we used on a flat plane and then move it down to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, but in actuality, they are navigating a flat plane. It's much easier to just take it that way. And they do. That's how it all works. These fundies after the fact who aren't navigating with triangles, they're taking the measurement with a triangle and moving it to a spherical Earth after the fact. Yeah, they're not going to be out at sea doing that because it isn't necessary, because Earth is actually obviously, observably, measurably and navigatably flat. But with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you for smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!